Hey everybody!
Hello.
I'm actually on a live. I haven't been on a live in a couple of weeks. I'm so glad to see you guys. This is one of our favorite lives because we get to hang out with our new friend Tiffany. And I don't think we talked afterwards last time because Tiffany is also a fan of Halloween. So I feel like we're bonding. Yeah, so I've got one of my Gideon shirts on. I didn't realize Cheryl went down and put hers on. Hers looks spookier, but Gideon's is actually a place that has no vegan desserts. They do have vegan coffee with oat milk, but they have the coolest artwork. So if you're in Disney, you should at least go into the store to see some of their cool stuff. Yeah. So everybody, if you have some questions for Tiffany, go ahead and put them in. We're talking about the starch solution, Dr. McDougall's starch solution today. So if you're welcome to ask whatever you want to ask, but just know that today that's kind of the direction we're headed. Every once in a while, it seems like someone always asks a non-starch related, starch solution related question when we have you or Stacy on. So Tiffany, I'm going to have you go ahead and introduce yourself, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. I am Tiffany Hobson. I am the Vice President of Operations at McDougall Health and Medical Center. I have been working for the McDougalls for over 23 years. So I have had the pleasure of being a part of sitting with Dr. McDougall when he used to see patients. And then I sat in with Dr. Lim when he saw patients up until COVID. And then we changed up our business to do it online, which is really fantastic because we're giving you our quality program throughout the world. You don't have to travel to us, and it's a much cheaper program. And not only that, but the difference between what our residential program offered versus online is that our online actually gives you an entire year of support after the program ends. And that's really, I think, beneficial for anybody starting off in a health journey, or maybe they're in the middle of it, or maybe if they're at the tail end, but just having that cheerleader on your side when the world is kind of against you always helps. So I look forward to answering your questions and just seeing where we end up today.
Awesome.
Yay. So it's always awesome to have you here, and we always chat with our guests a little bit before too. So one of the things, and I think most of you guys already know this, is that Cheryl and I have been experiencing a little bit of a month.
Yeah, a little bit.
And so Cheryl got laid off a couple of weeks ago, and then Max crossed the Rainbow Bridge a week ago.
Yeah,
actually, it's
today.
been a week. So he was a great boy. He was 13. He was about 60 pounds, and he lived a rough 2 years before he came to us. And he was a hard dog, but we loved him. Yeah. We loved him, and this was the right thing to do. He was in a lot more pain than we had realized.
Yeah.
Dogs are tough, you know?
He had some internal stuff going on too that we didn't want to put him through pokes and prods and, exploratory stuff. So
yeah, there comes a time you have to be the grown up for your dog, which is hard because for me, I feel like our dogs have allowed me to let that little kid inside come out. So one of the things that we're talking about, and you guys, please do put your questions in the comments for Tiffany about the starch solution, about maybe some things that are going on with you if you want. If she feels that she is not, if it's a doctor question, she will tell you that she can't answer, but that's okay. But so one of the things we were talking about is because we're always transparent with you guys, and our ultimate goal is to do 90 to 95%, and we're not right now. We haven't the past couple of weeks. I have gone back and started walking, and it's not, Stacy has said this before too, and Tiffany, this might be something, you can't out-exercise a bad diet. And by bad, we're not eating Impossible burgers and fries and off of the chain.
I did once.
You did, but
I did once.
Once I felt like it was okay, but you can decide what you feel too, Tiffany. But it's one of those things when you're grieving and you're just feeling so thrown. I mean, we talked about this a little bit last time with you, because it is always better not to use food, alcohol, drugs, other things as a crutch.
Right.
But at some point, to some degree, I feel like as I'm eating more sugar right now, which is kind of more of my comforty thing. So we are.
And I'm eating more bread right now. Like,
Okay.
I try to limit the amount of bread that I have because it's a slippery slope for me. But right now, I'm like, it's a bagel. It's a bagel. I want a bagel. It's all those things.
Right, and I know also, like, when we're talking about it's a bagel, we're not talking about it's a dozen deep fried donuts too. So like we're trying there, and you and I were talking a little bit kind of like about middle ground, or about when things don't always go perfectly. Because I think one of the things, and I said this to Tiffany, is that oftentimes people who are online will give the appearance of being perfect.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. I'm not going to be perfect
No.
tomorrow. I'm not going to be perfect 10 years from now. I am a person, and some days are going to be really great, and other
Yeah.
days I'm going to struggle. And I think that that's more of the human experience that I see and hear about from other people. So Tiffany, and Eleanor is saying, I relate to the bread. Oh, Linda's being good. Linda's having leftover Brussels sprouts and gold potato soup for lunch, which
That actually sounds delicious.
amazing. Oh, and Apple says that she was late because she was distracted by her yarn stash, which I think is a good way to be. And Apple says, I relate to the bread thing too. Pasta is also a gateway food for me, all flour products. So, Tiffany, I'm going to shut up now and let you kind of start talking about stuff. How about that?
That sounds great. Well, it's really difficult when you're grieving because your mind, when you're putting food in your body, is not necessarily on, am I hungry? Am I satiated? Am I being healthy? It's really on loss. And I'm a big fan of, hey, if you're upset, cry, scream into a pillow. If you don't have a punching bag, they're quite amazing. But you need to get emotion and energy out, and it's okay. I think that people that try to be perfect, when that line breaks and they fall much harder than the rest of us. It's very difficult to try to put on perfection at all times. And there are a percentage of people that can do it. It is type A at its finest. And the rest of the world is not like that. Most of it. Even if you're type A, there's degrees of type A. I believe in being kind to yourself, but I also believe in being realistic. So if on day one you go out and you have the French fries, and then day two you have the sundae, and day three, like if it keeps going on and on, then what you're doing is you are literally starting to first slip and then jump off of a cliff. And that can be very difficult to reel yourself back in from. So, how do you do this? Well, what your body is asking for when you're craving bread, when you're craving sweets, it's a very quick way for your body to get glucose. I mean, let's take it down to basic biology, right? Good old Bio 101, whether you were in high school or even just the first few years in college. What does your brain need to function? Glucose. What is the best way for your body to obtain glucose from? Carbohydrate. Okay. So, and this is why when people go into like keto diets, and why does it work for weight loss? It works because your body's like, oh my God, there's no carb. What do we do? And literally, it's like, okay, we got to think smart. We got to figure it out. Let's take this protein. We are going to convert this baby into sugar and feed our brain. That is the process of ketosis. This is why you drop weight so quickly, because your body is working at a much harder level in order for your brain to get what it needs so that your brain can tell your body what to do, like breathe, walk. You need some food. You know, these are just regular mechanisms biologically that we need to survive. So when somebody says to me, "Oh God, I'm craving bread," my first question is, okay, well, again, what kind of relationship do you have with bread? If you can have a toasted bagel plain and walk away, fine. That's not going to blow up my skirt. If you have one bagel and then before you know it, you're buying 12 packs of them and having a few a day, well, then obviously that's going to be too much. And hey, this is Halloween time. The candy is everywhere. If you've got a candy in your closet waiting for the 31st of this month, but it's in that closet saying, "I'm here, eat me," then you didn't have it in your closet yet.
Right?
But right, but it's just your body kind of remembering. It's like muscle memory. Whether you work out or, if you're a CPA and you do what you do, there are certain things you do automatically just because you've done it for so long. It's no different than you reaching for candy or bread, because if you're stressed, if you're upset, these are things that you're used to grabbing. The tagline, probably the best, most truthful advertising I have seen from all of my life, is Snickers satisfies. It does. It has sugar, chocolate for your fat. It has peanuts, like it hits every taste bud you could absolutely imagine. But, is it healthy for you? No, it's not. It does nothing for weight loss. So, what I would suggest is when you're in grieving mode, start to think back to things that really comforted you. Like for some people, it's their grandmother's chicken soup. Okay, well, take out the chicken, make it. You're good. Mashed potatoes. Mashed potatoes are really nice. Cups of tea. You want to nurture your soul, but you don't want to do it in such a way where you're sabotaging your efforts of being healthy. Or, like, if you're somebody that you're where you want to be in your health goals, that all of a sudden 10, 15 pounds later, you wake up and go, "Oh my God, what happened?" But on this path, I think recognizing it and being able to have that inner dialogue that is not negative, it's just very comforting and straightforward. Hey, yeah, today sucks. Tomorrow ain't going to be better, because losing a dog is no different than a child. I mean, you grow attached to it and it is a part of your family. So the loss is very hurtful, it's very real. But it's no different than when you're starting to go out a little more. I work full time, more than full time, probably. I am a mom. I'm coaching soccer. Like, my Monday through Thursday from about 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. is micromanaged. And I don't have time to be in the kitchen and cook. But I could get out my rice cooker and I could cook rice, and I can get a bag of salad and I could throw that baby in there, and I could get some canned beans, rinse them, put them on my stove, season them up, pick your salsa of choice. We're done. So there are still things, like with potatoes. Baking them is fantastic, but it takes a while. Got to scrub them, poke them to death. By the time I do that, especially if I'm doing 20 potatoes at a time, that's taking a lot of time, and that's not even cooking. Maybe I preheated my oven, but now I got to cook and wait. But I can quickly rinse a potato, peel it, cut it in half, chunk it up, get a steamer going, and steam the same amount of potatoes in less time. And now I've got instant gratification. And I love steamed potatoes because later I could put them. I have a toaster oven. Some people have an air fryer, or even if you have just a regular oven, throw it in there, roast them, bam, you're done. Heat them up in the microwave, put a sauce with it, you're done. Or put them in a pot, put either a little bit of like water or low sodium vegetable broth, or your plant milk unsweetened of choice, warm that baby up, mash it up, get a hand blender. At least I like my mashed potatoes whipped. Now you got mashed potatoes on the fly. So you just want to do something that's quick and easy, because especially when you're grieving, the last thing you want to do, unless you absolutely love cooking, is being in the kitchen.
I like that a lot. And for me, it's not even that I don't want to be in the kitchen. It's just because of all these other things that have happened. I've had to move a book, and so now I'm confused, which is a me problem, not an everybody problem. But like, I never push things off, so that
No, she's never ever like pushed a deadline on a book before.
I think
and
I'm a
so-
little more like you, Tiffany. I always have everything kind of scheduled out, and I'm doing all the things. But one of the things is that I don't have the same amount of energy and things like that. Like today,
Yeah.
I tried steaming a white sweet potato in the microwave, which I thought would be a great idea. And I think it is, in general, a great idea. With this potato, it was not. It actually is
It was
like,
bad.
it's not mealy, but it
didn't
almost
even
feels like
taste like-
powder. It's weird. I'm gonna blend it up and put it in something
It
else.
didn't even taste like a sweet potato.
Yeah, so also I find that it seems like when you're not feeling good and you make some effort, those tend to be the times that things don't turn out quite as good sometimes, which is weird. But I love the mashed potatoes, and that's how I pulled Cheryl into the starch solution, because she was watching it with me. And she joined a couple of days later. But I was like, okay, if I'm doing this and you're like in it for my health when you wouldn't be in it for your health, you are going to sit here with me for all the things. And so, which usually I never do that to her, but I'm like, you have type 2 diabetes, but you're making me do this. Okay, so you're doing it too. And so like the first meal, like I made mashed potatoes. I have a really easy compliant gravy mix that I can make. I made greens, and we made like air fried crispy tofu, and had the whole, I mean, it was a really nice meal. And that's a meal I've been dreaming about all week. So hopefully I can pull it together and make it tonight.
That would be great.
Well, yeah, and not only that, but when you have the luxury of working from home, you don't have to cook everything at once. I mean, literally, it's like, okay, I could cut this. It's prepped. I could do this. It's prepped. By the time you go to cook, it's like a sous chef miraculously came into your house and set everything up.
Right.
And then you just put it together. So if you do have the luxury of working from home, make it easy on yourself. Or at night, if you watch television, I'll peel garlic. I'll do, numerous, like 40, 50, 60 cloves. I just peel it. Why not? I've got my compost bin here. I've got a bin just to throw in the garlic, so that it's just one less step. If I'm going to make red beans and rice, I'm going to sort out my beans the night before. It's little things like that that really add up to making life easier for you. And I want to, if you don't mind, I'm looking at some of the comments, because, I'm a noob, as my daughter told me, and I realized how to look at comments after the last show. So, Joan, bread and pasta are my biggest challenges. What's wrong with pasta, Joan? Pasta primavera. How can so many Italians go wrong? Make sure your marinara sauce has no oil in it. Maybe you want to have some pesto. Make the pesto without oil, without cheese. There's numerous varieties online, and just to have a lot of vegetables with it, and maybe have a side salad. You're done. Don't feel bad about that. And for everybody that is in Florida, yeah, my thoughts and prayers are with you. That is horrible what you guys are going through. I hope to God that gets downgraded, and that all of you are safe and remain safe. Let's see. Trinity, hi. You find yourself stuck in the rat trap of weighing and measuring anything that goes in your mouth. If you're doing starch solution, you're combining it with Weight Watchers. Don't do that. Really, you need to start trusting yourself. Eat when you're hungry. Stop when you're satiated. Repeat as necessary. Now, if you're a fast eater, like I'm a fast eater, worked in a hospital long enough, you better be a fast eater if you're getting anything in you. Then what you do is, if you make a bowl of oatmeal, eat half of it, walk away. Figure, hey, in 30 minutes, I'll eat some more. And if it's minute, 17 and you're hungry, go back and take a few bites. I don't want you to starve. But sometimes taking yourself out of the element and then kind of going back in and having a few more. You have to train yourself like Pavlov's dog to do something different. And that's a really great way to do it. And then Apple is a retired hospice chaplain and grief counselor. Thank you for your services, because though that's a very difficult job. And people who do that, the people that you are helping really need you. So thank you for that. And she knows that grief is going to affect your eating patterns. You gotta like just breathe for a moment and not beat yourself up. Let's see. The professional procrastinator. Yeah, I know a couple of those as well. I can be that as well, but as I've gotten older, I'm much better at it. But yeah, I mean, these are things that you just kind of have to, sometimes it's very difficult, but take a step or two back and breathe. It's like if you lose your car keys. If you stress out about it, you're never going to find them. But if you just kind of go, I'm going to forget about it. I'm going to go do something else out of nowhere. You're like, oh my God, I know exactly where they're at.
Right. And I totally get that too. Like for me, one of my first steps in kind of pulling this all back together, because I don't walk because I can eat a cheesecake and then walk. I walk because it makes me less of a discombobulated emotional wreck. So like I'm the person, I'm an introvert, which surprises some people, but not really. So I have to get out there and like let my thoughts go to their fruition, wherever that is. So if I stop them, it could be in the life is horrible. But if I just kept with it a minute more, but everything's going to get better. So usually I find if I walk, and like one of the things is we walk about 3 miles, which is not super long, but good. And then yesterday in particular, Cheryl was feeling some of her grief anger about work and some other things. Yeah. We walked and we talked about it, and she got to get some of that out. We got to process some of that. And when we came back, we did make better choices. And so I do think some of it too is like, it's about the eating, but it's also about not dodging all of those really hard feelings too.
Yeah, I was really angry.
And you just discounted yourself, and I want you to take a step back.
Ooh, thank you.
Walking 3 miles is fantastic. Okay.
Oh,
any walk is better than no walk. I tell my patients all the time, if you could go out for 5 minutes and come back, there's 10 minutes. You do that a few times a day. And if you're consistent, that's better than people that exercise in, the most extreme conditions. And I'm not talking Olympic athletes or professional athletes. That's their job. They get paid to perform at the top level. It's a whole different beast. I'm talking about regular people in the world. Okay. You get injured, then you're out exercising. Yep. You might do stuff. So just going out for a little bit is better than nothing at all. So don't ever discount it. Because, hey, there are days, you know what? I'm so micromanaged, I cannot get out for a walk. And it's like, okay, it is what it is. Am I upset by it? Yeah, because I don't listen to music. I literally have I do not get paid by them, but Under Armour, Map My Walk. It's a free app. They'll ask you to, if you want to buy into this and that, you don't need to. But I map out, because I like to know how long, of a route that I did, the mileage. I like to know personally my minutes per mile. Because I know that I always break a 15-minute mile, but sometimes, I'm in a 12, I'm in a 13, I'm in a 14, so, and if I look at my time and I've dropped my daughter off at school and I have an hour and a half before I see my first patient of the day, or my first patient at that time during the day, because I see patients early in the morning as well, then I know, okay, if I break a 15-minute mile, the most I can do, especially if I'm busting my butt, is I could do maybe 5 miles, maybe 3. Who cares? Sometimes just getting out for 20 minutes is all I can do that day. So don't discount it. Anything you do like that is a good thing.
And it is really true. And one of the reasons I think that, and I didn't even notice that I discounted it, so thank you, because I'm usually pretty happy with myself because especially when I'm walking about every day, because it just makes me a nicer person, more than anything else. But like the bad doctors that I used to have literally told me when I was overweight, well, there's no reason for you to walk. You'll just get hungrier and eat more. And so she was also paleo, so she got really upset that I'm like, I'm going to start eating oatmeal. Oatmeal. She is not my doctor anymore, so it's all good. But she's a CrossFitter. She became a CrossFitter, and then literally even after I had lost some weight and I gained some of it back and was working on losing again. She's like, no, you have to do 4 sets of all these 17 exercises every day.
Nope.
Walking isn't going to do it, and that's one of the reasons why. And you probably don't know this, but there are a couple of people like Boomer and Beyond Wellness, Angela, that is going to be coming on to do some exercises. Rose Lapano, who also is whole food plant-based no oil, comes on, and she's showing us we could lift cans in our kitchen twice a week, and that would be good strength building. So I'm trying to, one of the things I want to do, because I need it, so I know somebody else needs it, is to have these really reasonable exercise things. Like it's not reasonable for most people to work out 3 hours a day.
Right.
I can't do all the things I need to do and do that, right? But it is, if you can get 20 minutes to an hour some days, like when I'm having a really good walk, it's about meditation combined with movement, combined with processing for me personally. So it's easy for me to feel like that hour was so productive that hour was great. Because I come back, I sleep well, I eat better.
Exactly. You sleep better when you exercise, but you don't have to do it all at once. You could break it up. I mean, you could have, and I do this sometimes, I have my weights right down on the ground. In between patients late, I can do a set. Real quick, I could drop and do a plank. So you could do these things throughout the day. I mean, like when I see people, like right now, I stand, I don't sit. I like being up. I like moving. It relaxes me. I just like that aspect of any movement is better than no movement.
Exactly.
And really getting that in your head. Do you want to continue with this, or do you want to jump over back to the comments?
Let's jump over to Carrie.
Carrie's, and Carrie's saying, Tiffany, can you speak to emotional eating? I find myself eating when I'm not hungry, but bored or stressed. I think I'd really like to get out of this habit.
Carrie, yeah, you know what? A lot of people do things when they're bored, stressed, and tired. And eating when they're not hungry, you'd be amazed. You are you got a lot of company with you. So what I always say is, number one, if you are not hungry, then the only thing, the best thing for you to put in your mouth would be to drink some warm tea. I don't care what you put in it, agave, honey, have it plain. Just if you're going to put agave or honey in it, don't put half the bottle, but have some nice warm tea. Then you're doing the hand to mouth, just like you would with food, but you're not putting food in your mouth. And you're drinking something that's nice, it's warm, it's comforting, it's like food, but it's not. That would be my number one. But if you're bored or you're stressed, being in the kitchen is not the place you need to be. You need to find an outlet, whether you knit, crochet, sew, you like crossword puzzles, you actually go outside for a walk for maybe 5-10 minutes, just out the door and come back. If, playing solitaire, like you need to completely take yourself out of yourself and do something different. Maybe try a new sport, maybe go to the gym, and walk on the treadmill for like 20-30 minutes. It's little things like that help you help yourself break out of these patterns. And, Carrie, you're not going to be perfect. You might be really great the first few days, and then, oops, something fell into your mouth. It's okay. It's the fact that you are working on it continuously that eventually in 3 to 6 months from now, it's going to be your new habit. versus what you're already used to.
I love that.
Yeah.
And because I do find that finding something else to do, or even like the only thing that I might contradict you in is if you're you or me, being in the kitchen prepping stuff might be okay, because if I'm cutting up vegetables, I'm not eating cake, right? So, or peeling garlic or something like that. But
Yeah.
I do agree, and we talk about that some too. We're getting ready to have a big trip, and we're kind of hoping that will help us reset our mind, because it was a trip that's already planned. We have we're going to go to, you're going to love this. We're going to go to Sleepy Hollow, to the Blaze Pumpkin thing.
Yay.
We're going to go to Salem for a couple of days. We might do some other
Nice.
spooky stuff. So it just happens to come at a time where then we can be, and I want to be real clear. I'm not saying, oh, you're having a bad time, go take a vacation, get out of your element. Because when you come back, the stuff is going to be here. But we're trying so many things. Like over that time, she's going to be learning more about the business. We're going to work a little every day. And so when we come back, it won't be all the things just piled up. But I think sometimes even if you're just like, because I've even been thinking maybe we should try to play pickleball. I'm not a sports person. I'm very competitive, so it's not always good for me.
I might have ordered us some pickleball pads.
No, did you really?
I did.
Okay, because our friend is obsessed.
It's
and-
Amazon Prime Day, so.
Okay, so
That's right.
I was thinking that, just to do something a little different where we actually right now leave the house, because part of the thing when you lose an animal is the house feels so different.
The energy is just
Yeah.
completely different.
And you just have to get used to it, and we will be used to it, eventually. But it is kind of nice to then take yourself out, and that's why I like taking myself out for a walk.
And one of the things that I was saying yesterday when I was having all these feelings of anger and trying to just push stuff down and everything, and she was like, no, get it out. And I'm just trying to shove it down. One of the things that I realized was that I still feel this tether to the company I got laid off from. Because a lot of what I did when I worked there was I worked every vacation we've ever been on in 17 and a half years. I have had to work at least 1 to 3 days on that vacation. I've never had a vacation in 17 and a half years where I haven't had to work.
She'll still have to work, but it feels different to her.
And-
like working an hour doing something for you guys
It's
feels very
different.
different than someone's making me do these things and they've messed up.
Or I'm having to do these things because something broke 3 years ago and nobody thinks it's important enough to fix. So, I need that. I need to know what that feels like, to not have that responsibility like nagging at me while I'm trying to have fun. And also just the fact that we can go do stuff without me having to ask somebody if I'm allowed. Like, asking somebody to take vacation time and having somebody dictate to you how many hours of vacation you're allowed to have and things like that. Like, I'm starting to realize now that all of that combined has just weighed on me for years. And the layoff is a blessing in disguise, but I need to break that tether, and I feel like the next week or so is gonna take care of that for
It's
me.
layers of things. It's hard when you just have one thing.
Yes.
And if you have more things, then it becomes a little harder. And then Tanya is saying, I've been feeling down the past year, and it shows with my eating and weight. And that kind of goes back to what Tiffany was saying about, kind of being present and realizing, oh, this is happening for a couple of days versus this is happening for a couple of months, or seeing it if it's progressing and things like that.
Yeah.
She's saying, my husband eats and has junk food all over the house all day. So I'll succumb to some of it at times, or go get my own vegan versions, which are still not great. I'm on a daily bagel with peanut butter and jam kick, sigh. And she also, just to kind of get all of it in, she said, oh, I'm trying to push the feelings down, laugh out loud, which I think when any of us look at us doing something that we don't feel good about, a lot of that is about pushing feelings down.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Tanya, look at me. I want you to breathe. You're worth it. I mean, not just the breathing part, but if you push your feelings down in one way or another, they will come back, and they're probably going to come back 20-fold. Don't do that to yourself. If you're not feeling good, you have to express it. You have to get that out. If, you could talk to your husband, wonderful. If you don't feel like you can, this is where sometimes you got to go shop a good 20, 30 therapist or a psychologist to find the one that you could bare your soul to. But this is what you want to do. You want to get those thoughts and feelings out. Otherwise, they're going to fester. And then one day you're going to explode. Okay. And one way that people do explode, some do it emotionally, others do it with food, and you can only push feelings down for so long. Your husband having junk food. I tell this story to my patients all the time. I had this amazing teacher. I was so lucky to have him all 3 years of junior high, Mr. Jennings. And I also babysat for him. And Mr. Jennings was about around 6'2". His wife was somewhere between 5', 5'3". She was petite. She worked hard at it. She watched what she ate. She exercised. And every time when his wife would be saying goodbye to the kids, Mr. Jennings would hand me a key and say, "Whatever you want, kid. There's the ladder." And I would have to, if I wanted some like chips or cookies or whatever amazing things he had in that cabinet, because he had some really good stuff, I'll tell you. And as a teenager, this was the golden key. I'd go up to the ladder. I wouldn't feed the kids junk food unless I was given permission to give them a few cookies or whatnot. But I would unlock it, and when the kids were in bed, I could have whatever I wanted. It's fantastic. But he had that above the refrigerator locked, and his wife never had the key because she knew if she found it around the house that it would be flying into her mouth. So fast forward to when I started changing the way I ate with my flatmates. We had like a shared common kitchen area, like regular kitchens. We rented a house. And when I went to stop eating cheese, because I slowly changed my diet, and that was the last thing of what I was going to give up. I knew it was going to be difficult. I was not the nicest person for that first month. I will be very honest about that. But I told them, this is the hardest thing for me to break. And if I see it in that refrigerator, I'm going to open it up and I'm going to throw it away. And then I'm going to put trash on top of it. And I was very serious. So the first time I did it, when my flatmate was very upset with me because that was a $35 purchase, I smiled and said, "What did I tell you?" Very quickly, my flatmates learned, do not have cheese in there because it's either going to go in my mouth or it's going to go in the trash. And I was very hyper focused on what I wanted to do. So when it comes to a husband, the way that I look at partnerships, whether you're married or not, and you're domestic partners for life, you want to be in a relationship that's healthy. You want to be in a relationship that you don't have to agree with your partner 100% all the time, but you want them to thrive. You want them to do well. You want them to be happy. I don't want a miserable husband. I love my husband. I want him to be happy. So this is something that I would sit down with your husband, Tanya, and I would say, you know what? I'm trying to get back into my healthy kick. I've had enough bagels with peanut butter and jam to probably last me a good 6 months, if not years. So here are some things that you eat that are hard for me to have around without me wanting to grab them. So can you lock them up? Can you not have them around? Things like this really do help, because if you don't see it around, no offense, but you got to care about what you put in your mouth. You cannot control what your husband does. I want you 1000% concentrated on you, Tanya. But if he has a lockbox and you can't get into it, it ends up within like a few weeks, you kind of forget about it. But then you could also say, honey, if I do see those bag of Lay's barbecue chips, I'm going to open them up. I'm going to put them in the trash, and I'm going to put more trash on top of it. It only takes a few times, to complain about wasted money and, how upsetting it is. It's a Pavlov's dog. I love Pavlov's dog, if you haven't realized by now. But you can retrain. You can train yourself. You can retrain yourself. And you can train and retrain anybody else around you by both positive and negative reinforcement. That is a negative reinforcement. Did you waste the money? Did you get your chips? Maybe you'll lock it up next time. So these are things that I would try.
So Cheryl's whispering over my ear. She goes, should I tell people I hid stuff from you before we started the Starch solution? There are things that can't be in the house.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Skittles could not be in the house.
Well, I don't even love them. They do some weird food coloring chemical reaction with me, and it's like a drug. So I can't just eat a Skittle and be like, oh, that was underwhelming. I eat like 20 Skittles, still overwhelmed, but now I'm like high on sugar.
But, the thing that was amazing, like, talk about how we kind of mesh really well is like, one of the things that I've always been so thankful is most of the time, pre-Starch solution, the cookies and stuff that she would bring home, I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Because we have complete opposite tastes in that. And so we'd be sitting on the couch.
I don't like chocolate is what really, I don't hate chocolate. It's just like, I don't crave chocolate. Like I would rather have a lemon something than a chocolate something.
So, she'd get whatever Oreo flavor of the month that she wanted. And then she'd have some.
Thin lemon ones.
And then she'd be watching TV and mindlessly eating those, and all of a sudden she'd look down and realize she had more than she had expected she would eat, and immediately she would shut that and just shove it over to me and say, do something with this.
Yeah, get it away.
Make it go away, right? And like hide it from me. And I knew better than to throw it out.
But literally, though, I wouldn't ask for it for 4 more months.
No, and by the time she'd get to the stuff, it'd be stale.
But
and
we don't do that now.
I'd forget where they were sometimes.
She's always like, oh, it's going to be stale. I'm like, it's going to be fine. It's made of preservatives. I think we're, do we want to eat it now is a different question than then. But there is an amount of cooperation. Like Cheryl doing the Starch solution with me, and doing the 12-day program was a huge help. It was great for me because she also got educated on something she didn't know at all. And just us going through it together. And I think it's going to make it easier for us to kind of pick ourselves back up and get more on the straight and narrow.
It also helped us to communicate better. So
that's very true. And actually, that's not something I was thinking it was going to make us clash more. Honestly, that was I didn't voice that. Didn't want to speak it into being. But even when we were doing the Starch solution, so for a couple of months, we did go out to eat once because I almost passed out. So it was like, oh shit, where are we? And we were able to go to P.F. Chang's, get the steamed vegetable thing. So I had looked ahead enough to be able to plan something that we felt good about. We had some brown rice. It was, at that point, it was in the middle of the 12-day program. So I felt guilty, even though I didn't need to be, right?
And we told Stacy what we had, and she was like,
that sounds great.
You did perfect.
We're like, and I think that, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and don't discount like steakhouses. I know vegans out there, you're cringing, but steakhouses, like if you walk into any Ruth Chris steakhouse, I know that menu by heart. You can be 100% vegan there. You just don't look at what everybody else is eating if that really upsets you. Or I have actually called steakhouses before when I have absolutely no time, no energy. When we lost our house in the fires back in 2017, I called the steakhouse and said, may I please have 20 baked potatoes with no oil and no butter to go? And the person on the other line asked, really? Why? And I didn't want to get into it. I just said, yeah, I just found out I'm having a ton of people over at my house and I have no time to make baked potatoes. Can you do this for me? I just gave some arbitrary, stupid,
Yeah.
whatever came out of my mouth. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just went there, paid, picked it up. There you go. Wendy's. Wendy's has baked potatoes.
I was thinking that too. And one of the things that, if we even go jumping back further, kind of combining the not always having time to cook and the fact that a hurricane is bearing down on a lot of people. So last night I got a lot of hurricane food questions, and having some things prepared like that, because like if you cook a bunch of sweet potatoes, even if you had to just stick them in the fridge, they're still going to last for a long time, or regular potatoes. And a lot of times and I did this when I started, realized she had lost her job, and before things got so out of hand, is I went to Trader Joe's. I got broccoli slaw. I got cruciferous crunch. I got shredded carrots. I got shredded Brussels sprouts. I got frozen butternut squash. And one of the things,
All the things that she would normally take the time to chop up herself.
that can be fun. It can be kind of fun to break down a butternut squash because you're like, yeah, I'm that lady. I'm doing it. But when I know I have a quarter teaspoon for the whole day, I'm not wasting it on that, a quarter of a butternut squash. I need to use that to make a whole dinner or to get myself out on a walk. And I say this a lot, but in case there's new people here who haven't heard this, it's okay to buy broken down vegetables like shredded things, butternut squash, sliced mushrooms. And if you don't have the money to do it, or you want to have the organic one from the farmer down the street, it is equally okay to break it down yourself. There is no wrong answer. And I think sometimes people are like, well, it's environmentally, well, that's great for you and you should make that choice. But there are people out there who literally cannot break a butternut squash down and will never be able to because of physical limitations. That's why this stuff exists. So while you should always make the best choice for you that's within your values, I can because I don't like to waste the packaging. However, I knew, and then this past week, I had baby kale, I had shredded carrots, I had gotten, we were somewhere and actually they had pumpkin curry chickpea salad, which was delightful. I threw that on my salad with a little bit of like curry balsamic vinegar. And I mean, it was a giant salad. I would not have been able to do that had I not had some of these easier things to do in the house.
Yeah, you just wouldn't have had you wouldn't have had the mental faculty at that point to actually just do it.
Absolutely. Just make it easy on yourself. Life is too hard. If you work, you got work stress. If you have kids, even if they're great, you still got to mitigate, showers, dinner, homework, if there's sports, it's like, don't stress yourself out over things like that, really. And, if you feel bad about the waste of the container, then keep it and utilize it for other things like putting in, screws or nails there's so many different things that you could use containers for. Or if you have kids, there's an art project, go paint and do something with it. So there's always something that you could repurpose and have a DIY, at your house with these items. I want to get back to a couple of these. So Dublin, auf Deutschland, guten Abend. It's late for you and thank you for being here. And one question, or we had just talked about, for those people that are in Florida, where you are hunkering down right now, Jeff Novick, our nutritionist at the McDougall program, he is probably the one person that I know who has not only fed himself during hurricanes, but all of his neighbors. So not that you could go out and do anything right now, but you definitely want to have Bunsen burners. You want to have extra butane on you. You want to have, tons of canned, whether it's sweet potatoes, canned tomatoes, canned, let me think, beans, buy things in cans. And even when you're not in a hurricane, then you want to make sure that you're looking at the expiration date, changing things out. But these things, you don't have to worry about anything fresh. You've got everything right here. You're going to be okay. Have rice. Rice isn't going to go bad. Quinoa isn't going to go bad. These are things, or dehydrated, vegetables and fruits. These are things I would be stacking up on when you're not in hurricane, so that when you're in hurricane mode, you don't have to worry about where am I going to get my food. It's no different. I mean, California, we got earthquakes anytime. We can level out, so, just being prepared with that, lots of water, and please just staying safe, because that's very, very important. And Adriana, you like walking, but you have lots of problems with ankle pain and sciatica, as well as knee pain. You should not be walking at all. You should be in the pool. If you don't have access to a pool, then, that's when you want to talk to a healthcare professional to see what type of exercises you could kind of do. Who was it? Denise Austin? Wasn't that back in the 80s where she did chair exercises and it was very
Yes.
popular? You could do things like that. But with your sciatica, you just really want to be careful. So please talk to a healthcare professional. And Tanya, oatmeal is not bad. If you're actually jonesing for sugar, then go make yourself some oatmeal with water and put some brown sugar on it and call it a day. That's going to be a better option than having the Snickers bar. So remember, you got it's not always black and white. There's a lot of shades of gray, and sometimes you got to think, well, what's the best thing I could do so I kick my sugar habit at the moment? Because if I don't have something with sugar, I might explode or implode, or both. Oatmeal with brown sugar, a little bit of maple syrup is fantastic. And in Canada, hi Kelly, you guys have fantastic maple syrup.
Well, and I'm obsessed with oatmeal. So at one time, I have a whole book that's on oatmeal. So like I used to have 50 different flavors of oatmeal, and like one of my favorite things to do is put a little lemon zest. This was my summer oatmeal, fresh blueberries, a little bit of maple syrup, and a little bit of cardamom, and it's better than any muffin you're ever going to get as far as like taste and soul satisfying. And y'all, it's pumpkin spice season. There should be sweet potato or pumpkin mixed up in that oatmeal with a little bit of different, like a pumpkin pie spice mix or whatever you like to do. Like, it's magical. And you can also like puree a date and put in there if you don't want to do the maple syrup. I am going to go, and it's just going to be Cheryl, because I have something I have to do at 2. So I'm going to let you guys do this. But Tiffany, it's just been so special having you on today. I feel like I've had such a great conversation with you.
Thank you. I
And
appreciate
and
it.
so before I wanted to go, I just kind of wanted to give you a big virtual hug and thank you for all these really great suggestions. Oh, my
I
Halloween
do
bestie.
this instead of this because my daughter, since she was a little girl, would draw her hearts like this, which
Oh!
is anatomically correct as a heart in your body. So that's what we do for our hearts.
And
It's awesome.
right before I go, so Apple was saying, I lost most of my weight while bedbound and in a wheelchair. When I'm able to walk, it's for mental clarity, not weight loss. I love that expression, you can't outrun your fork. Do you want to talk about that for a minute?
Jack Dixon, man, he is our exercise guru. He was an ergonomic specialist for Kaiser Permanente in Northern California before he retired from there. That has always been his mantra for decades that I know of. You cannot out exercise a bad diet, straight up. And it's true. Anybody that exercises at a very intense level and then they get injured, watch the weight come on. Or how many times do you hear of, oh my God, did you hear about John? He dropped dead. John was so fit. He exercised every day. He was always at the gym, whatnot. Well, you know what? Um, you can exercise all you want, but that's still going to do nothing about the plaque in your arteries or what you're doing internally to your body. So, exercise is great, but, you really want to make sure that you are fueling your body with the best thing you can. Now, that said, hey, if you're where you want to be, or hey, you're on your health journey and it's Halloween, and you have a favorite candy and you're handing out candy and you have like a little Twix, is that the end all be all? As long as you don't eat the rest of the bag? No, I don't care. You shouldn't either. Especially if you have gone and you have already dropped like 50 pounds or whatnot. You just don't want it to be a slippery slope. You want to remind yourself, hey, I've done this great so far. I still have, more I want to do. Where am I? To me, it's always about, where are you with your health goals? Are you where you want to be? Did you have a quadruple bypass or not? All of these are completely different factors and answers that myself or Stacy, when we see our patients, that we really look at the whole picture on how we tell what to our patients. Because what I say to one person is not what I'm going to say to the next person, and so on. But great job, Apple. Absolutely. I'm looking. Do you have anything while I'm
It's
trying to look through these comments
Yeah.
for me?
Carrie Britton just said, thank you so much. Those are really helpful. And she does love to knit. So that'll be good. And Tanya said, oh, I find being in the kitchen, prepping, cooking, baking therapeutic. It quiets my mind. So, I think you might have just triggered some thoughts and people weren't thinking about there that they can turn to.
Absolutely. Get those carrots out. Cut off those stems, clean, peel them, put them in some water. Maybe you want to cut them in half, and it actually makes your prep time for later when you want to use them for whatever you want to use them so much easier. Or hey, you're kind of hungry, nothing wrong with just eating a good old carrot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but these are just things that you want to think about. And also going back to those people with sweets. I'm not a big fan of, when people talk about dried fruit, because to me, dried fruit is a bigger slippery slope. We think, oh, well, it's not, white sugar. It's better to have date sugar. Sugar is sugar. And quite honestly, my background is in pharmacy. I've been a pharmacy technician for over 30 years. I'm nationally certified. Anytime a new drug comes out, I know it went through its trials. I know how that whole thing goes. But then there's a new trial. How's that going to affect the general population? How do you think drugs all of a sudden get released and then later they are now a black box drug? So it's kind of the same thing whenever you see anything new. CNH sugar, that's the one. That's been around forever. That comes from sugarcane, whether it's white, brown, maple syrup's been around for a really long time, molasses. Honey, I'm really, and I know the vegans, I'm sorry. But these are things that have been around, not just for a decade. like we're talking decades, centuries, really a long time. When stevia came out, everybody really jumped on the stevia bandwagon and how great it is. And hey, if you like stevia, great. But do you also know that it can promote headaches, migraines, and raise your blood pressure? Because when Dr. McDougall first heard about stevia, he said, oh, we got to get rid of our sugar, our brown sugar on the tables. Let's just have stevia for people. And then we had a program where he couldn't understand, like, why are people's blood pressures higher? Like I was in the kitchen making sure you guys aren't adding salt, right? You're no salt, beans that you're using and all of this. And then I kept thinking, well, what could it be? Because it's not one person. It's kind of across the board. And then I decided I know nothing about stevia. And when I brought that up to Dr. McDougall, he looked at me and said, throw out all of our stevia and get our sugar back. So, and with dried fruit's a calorie bomb. So if you want something sweet, oatmeal's a little bit of brown sugar. I mean, measure it out. You will know, let's be honest, you know if you put too much on it. But another really great sweetener, which I love during the fall and the winter holidays, is something like poached pears or baked apples. I mean, all I got to do is what? Peel an apple, core it, throw in a cinnamon stick, throw it in, bake it, done. I mean, you don't need all the pie and the extra hoopla with it. Just eat that. It's sweet. It's really nice. So, not forgetting kind of these time honored traditions, but just tweaking them in such a way where you're not getting the extra bit of like fat or calories, let's say if you made it into an apple pie, but you're getting kind of that feeling. I mean, to
That
me, it was
flavor
always about
profile.
the feeling. Right, pumpkin. I could care less about the pie, but I like the pumpkin and that flavor profile. I like the apples. I like the pears, nothing wrong with some peaches. As a matter of fact, my daughter loves watching cooking shows, and it's amazing while I am getting her ready for school in the morning and making her breakfast that she likes to watch Brunch at Bobby's, good old Bobby Flay. He's not a vegan at all. But I learned from him how to make a really good latte without having a big expensive machine in your house. Just sub the plant milk. And there was something that he was talking about today. He was making French toast. And he said that he has a friend who is a very famous bartender that said if you get a lot of peaches or whatnot, if you just sprinkle just a little bit of sugar, it kind of brings out even more of their natural flavor. And remember, sugar, it's not that like a calorie bomb. If you put a little bit over some fruit and it makes it sweeter and you throw that on your oatmeal, then you don't need to add any more sweetener to it. So sometimes just kind of looking more at the bigger picture versus being really, really minute kind of helps also with staying on plan and getting something a little sweet, but not falling off the cliff and not being compliant.
Right. Yeah. That definitely. Tanya did make a comment when we were talking about her husband locking stuff up, and she said, I don't think that the lockaway will work for me due to my old ED mentality. If I'm feeling restricted, I'll want it. I have to just know it's there and just not want it.
I don't, but then now we're going into somewhere where it's above and beyond my call of duty. That's
Yeah.
when you need to work with a professional.
Yeah.
I know when to say when, and I never want to mess anybody up, which, like it says, Boomer and Beyond Wellness, it says we are getting mixed messages. So I haven't been really looking at the feed.
I
So if
think
somebody can tell me,
she's talking about the hurricane.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
She's in Florida.
Yes.
That's
Oh, okay,
Angela.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just again, I just want everybody
Yeah.
safe. Good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Claire says, I think I need Tiffany to help train my kids and my husband.
Come to a McDougall program.
Exactly.
Done. And it's not about training. I mean, I don't know how many people know this about me or not, but when I had known my husband for well over a year. I can't remember whether it was about a year and a half, 2 years, before we went on our first date. He knew exactly who I was. He knew who I worked for. When we went out on our first date, we went to a restaurant and he just cracked up. And I said, what's so funny? He goes, how does this work? Because he knew who I worked for. And I said, I'm not your mother. I'm not your warden. In a restaurant, you order whatever you want. But if you're in it for the long haul with me by proxy, you're going to eat a certain way because it's the way I cook. That's it. I don't go into it. Now, my daughter, she has grown up hearing me and hearing, Dr. McDougall when he was alive giving lectures, Jeff Novick, Dr. Doug Lyle. Like, she has heard all of the lectures numerous times. She, even if she's in her bedroom and I'm talking to patients, and even if she's only hearing my side of the conversation, she knows exactly how to eat and why. Does it mean that my kid doesn't want a little Reese's once in a while? No, she's a kid. Do I give it to her all the time? No, because I'm a parent. But if we go to a restaurant and she wants to try something, I'm not going to tell her no, because in my thinking, that autonomous individual was born when that umbilical cord was cut. And I want her to be a free thinker. And I want her to come to terms with understanding why we eat healthy, because I don't want you complaining at me about having high cholesterol or having bypass surgery or being obese or struggling. The number one thing that I have really honed in on, that at she's almost 10 years old, that she has, that most of my patients struggle with, is when they are satiated. And I didn't even know what that was like. When I changed the way I ate, hey, I dropped weight and then I plateaued. Why? I had to sit with that for a few months. And then I realized probably don't need to eat as much food as you did 30 pounds ago.
Right. That was hard for
So
her. Yeah.
that's very hard for most people. And also not knowing what satiation feels like. I mean, for those of you that do yoga, I would say that it is like when you're in Shavasana, when you're in a state of being where you're not hungry and you're not thirsty and you're just kind of relaxed and you're just even keeled. That's what satiation's like. You're not hungry. You're not thinking about food. If you start thinking about food, maybe you're kind of hungry. Maybe you should get an apple, get a carrot. If you have some potatoes that were, already baked or steamed and they're in your fridge, have a few bites, see where you're at. But my daughter knows this. I mean, and I battle for her, even with my husband sometimes, when he'll look at it and go, she always says, not may I be excused, but I need to take a break. And sometimes he'll say, it's only 3 or 4 more bites. And I smile and go, wait a minute, are you satiated? And she says yes. And then I'm up at bat for her. And I'm like, no, we're good. I don't care if I throw it out. I don't care if I put it in the refrigerator for later. Sometimes it just stays there. And in like an hour and a half, she comes back and she takes the last 4 bites. But knowing that is so key to really not, I think, at least in my opinion, from my experience with me, watching my daughter, because, she's a little guinea pig with me on this one, but that she's not ever thinking about food. I mean, she thinks about when she's hungry, but that's about it. So, that to me is a really good step in the direction, and as when it comes to family with your husband and your kids, don't tell them what you're cooking is healthy, ever, at all. Just put out food. My next door neighbors are hunters and carnivores. And when we get together, I have a whole list of food they want me to bring over that is McDougall approved, because they love my cooking. So you just don't want to say, oh, these are the McDougall brownies. Yeah. You already put that shutter down in their brain. It's going to be a very closed minded, battle. You just don't want to do it. Yeah, just throw
Yeah.
something out. Oh, wait, where's the meat, Mom? Oh, I forgot to get some at the store. Or, oh, they didn't have the kind I usually get. That's the end of the discussion. Don't go into, well, I don't want you eating meat as much as you have been. That's going to be that you don't want to start a war in your household. You want to be a little more mellow, a little more Doug Lyle-ish is what I
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember early on, like Kathy always said, she never like told me what I was or wasn't going to eat. It was always my decision on what I was going to eat. And then over time, I just, out of respect for her, like I would eat whatever she cooked. And then over time, I just got to where I was like, on board as well. And then the Starch solution was like the final push for me into things. And I didn't learn how to feel that satiated feeling
Yeah.
until after I went through the 12-week program or the 12-day program, and then I got off of Ozempic because it was messing with my receptors a little bit. And so it took me a while to understand that feeling. And now it's taken me a while, but Stacy really worked with me on, just like you were saying, get to a point and go, okay, I'm gonna walk, I'm gonna put this away, and if I'm still hungry, I'm gonna come back for it later, has been so helpful for me. I mean, that was like a game changer for me, because I was one of those you need to clean your plate kids. And so as an adult, it's ingrained in my head that it's like, oh, that I'm being wasteful if I don't eat everything on my plate, kind of thing. And now I've learned that it's okay to not eat everything on my plate. It's okay to save stuff for later. So that is one of the things that I got on McDougall that's kind of been life changing for me. Christy has a question. Christy says, I know that losing weight and building muscle is two separate goals, but can we effectively tone our existing muscle while still losing weight?
Yes, absolutely. You know, I mean, there are people that just want that number to drop on the scale. And I tell them, you know what, that's only one piece of data. It is. Guess what? When I lost weight, that scale did not move like I wanted it to. I cannot tell you how many times I wanted to huck it through a window. But what I did notice was that I was buying smaller sizes in clothes. So just because your scale isn't moving, you have to remember muscle weighs more than fat. So if you're working out, yeah, that number isn't going to be moving like you want it to. But guess what? I personally do not know how much Simone Biles weighs. I bet you if she gets on a scale, she will blow to smithereens your BMI scale. BMI scale is for people like the general population. It's not for Olympic athletes. I mean, if you've ever seen Simone Biles and she does Athletica commercials, like she is the epitome of what a human body looks like with, I mean, I don't think she has any body fat on her. I mean, but that's her job. She's an Olympic athlete. This is what she does all the time, what she's done for decades of her life. It's not what we're at. But if you are like most of us and, you're working out, if you're mindful of what you're putting in your mouth at all times, it will all even out in the end. But just don't be so married to that number on your scale. Remember that, hey, when your clothes are fitting loose, I mean, don't we all have our skinny jeans, our mid jeans, and our fat girl jeans? We all have got that kind of range, right? So that if you put on your, mid to skinny jeans and a little tight, hey, what's going on there? Hey, if you put on your skinny jeans and they start feeling loose and they have now, they're moving up to that middle ground, or even your fat girl jean, then hey, I'm doing well. So I think that a lot of pressure is put on a number of a scale. If you're working out, you're doing wonderful things for your physical and emotional state for your body. If you're eating well, you're doing amazing things, not only for your emotional state of your body, but also the inner workings of your body.
I muted myself. And that kind of leads into what Linda was saying. Linda says, that is my challenge now, a plateau. After an 80-pound weight loss has slowed way down to almost a stop.
Okay,
And
Linda.
yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Right now, I would ask you, are you eating the same amount of food that you were 40 or 80 pounds ago? If you are, you're eating more food than you need to. And this is a very difficult adjustment for people because your body's used to it. So this is where you get a plate of food, a bowl of food, and you eat half of it and take a break. If you're still hungry, I do not want you to starve. I want you to go back and eat a little more. But what this does, it starts to train you as to the visual of food you're eating and how much do you need to be satiated. Because if you always eat till you are between full and stuffed, okay, not satiated and full, but full and stuffed, you don't know what satiation really kind of feels like, and for people like me that, I'm just a fast eater, I know, hey, I can eat a bowl of soup. If I want more, because I'm a great cook, I make myself wait a good 30, 45 minutes because I know how fast of an eater I am. And then if I still want soup later, then I just pour half a bowl I get half of a bowl and then I take a few bites and I leave it in the kitchen. I have to physically get up and grab it to take a few more bites because I know that it's only one bite away. This is how fast of an eater I am. I could take down 3 bowls of soup and then realize I'm absolutely overly stuffed.
Oh my goodness.
So I've just trained myself over the years. How do you slow it down if you're a fast eater? You're not going to slow. I mean, maybe you will. Maybe there are some good people that could probably work with you, but you know, I didn't retrain myself to slowly. The only time I'm slowly eating is when I'm engaged in conversation with others.
Mm.
With my family, when we sit down, we just eat. We talk before we eat, we talk after we eat, but when we're eating. That's it. So I just know I'm a fast eater still. I'll finish up before my daughter and my husband. So I know because of that, the way that I slow the process down is by only eating so much and taking a break and putting it in the kitchen. And when I'm hungry again, I'll go back for more. And if I'm not hungry, I just put it away later.
Yeah. I've always been a slow eater. And so sometimes when I'm around people that eat really fast, I'm kind of in awe of, because I'm always like, wow, how do they eat that fast? Like, are they even tasting what they're eating?
I'm tasting what I'm eating.
But yeah, I eat way slower than Kathy does sometimes, like, especially if we wait, like, everybody knows sometimes we forget to eat during the day, and then all of a sudden we're like really, really hungry if we're really busy and got a lot going on. And a lot of times she'll even eat faster when she's hungry like that. And then
Yeah.
before I even like get sat down with my plate, because I'm in the kitchen like fixing my plate and doing whatever, and when I go to sit down with it, she's already almost done.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
exactly. And not only that, but remember, if you're not eating throughout the day, look, I want you to eat when you're hungry, stop when you're satiated, repeat as necessary. If I wake up at, I don't know, let's see, I woke up this morning at 5:30. When we're done here, I'll eat. I'm
yeah,
not, I'm more of like, hey, I want to work, I want to do stuff. And it's just how over the years I'm kind of programmed. But there are days where all of a sudden it's 8 o'clock and I'm hungry, or kind of, so when I'm kind of hungry, that's when I get a few bites of apple. I get some carrots. Like, I don't make it a big production. I just want something in me, like potato or some sweet potato, just a few bites. Where am I at? There's always frozen hash browns waiting to be made just in
exactly.
case, but it's really little things like that, because if you don't eat and all of a sudden it's 5 o'clock and you're famished, you're going to overeat
Yeah,
because you haven't eaten throughout the day. You don't want this, I'm dropping,
yeah,
you just kind of want to be a little more even keeled. Sometimes it's not perfect, but
yeah.
you don't want to have that, because then it's like, how much food can I get into my mouth? And once you've overeaten, I
It's
mean,
too late.
it's kind of too late. Yeah. So, just remember, hey, if it's all of a sudden you've been up for like 6 to 8 hours and you haven't eaten anything and maybe you're not even really hungry, still, take a bite of apple or two. I mean, if you have a kid, what would you tell your kid? You
Yeah,
sure you're not hungry? Can you get me? And,
exactly.
and my daughter for breakfast, it's the only time during the day that I would actually say to my daughter, what would you like to eat for breakfast? Because I know she's not going to eat until snack. There are days that she'll take 3 bites of something and say, I'm good. There are other days where she's like, Mommy, can you make me more of this? So I don't dictate how much she eats, but I just want to make sure she doesn't hit hangry before snack time at school. So it's kind of that same principle, putting it upon yourself as an adult. Hey, if you're up a good 6, 8 hours and you're still not really hungry, maybe have just a bite or two of apple so that when you finally do get hungry, you're not stuffing your face.
I know Kathy's gotten really good about, she keeps sweet potatoes, except for the past 2 weeks. It's just nothing counts for the past 2 weeks. But when we were like, anything we were in our groove, Kathy keeps sweet potatoes in the refrigerator. And if she starts to feel like a little twinge, or she's in between like a meeting or a live or something like that, she will literally go get a sweet potato out, wrap a paper towel around it, and walk around munching on this sweet potato. And then I've gotten really good about doing the apple thing. I like to keep apples around. We keep some bananas around, and and I'll I'll walk past the kitchen and my brain will say, you haven't had anything today. And then I'll go, let me go grab one of those because it's something I can grab really quick and eat on the way to my next thing, kind of. So, yeah, I've been trying to do more of that this week too, but it's just been rough. But we got some great apples. So,
Right.
probably going to have one when we get off here.
Fantastic. Yeah, I have a ton of cosmic apples right now. That's our apple of choice at the moment.
Yeah, that's one of the things that is a little sad about the Asheville situation in North Carolina. Asheville is where we used to go to get a lot of really, really nice apples and stuff. There was a lot of apple farmers, I guess you call them, out that way. And it's going to take a while for things to get back to normal out there. It's going to take a really, really long time. Linda says, thank you for the suggestions to battle the plateau. Since going whole food plant-based, I've tried to get out of the weigh and measure portion size mentality. Going to soup and salad for main meal to see if that works.
Yeah, you know what? I lost all my weight on eating soups and potatoes, straight up. I'm all about you get a bigger bang for your buck eating soups than you do salads. So if you're going to make one or the other, hey, you could always do salad in a bag, throw out the dressing, but it should be, everything else in usually a salad bag, unless they put nuts and dried fruit or, cheese in there. If it's just a plain bag of salad, throw out the dressing. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Don't make it complicated. One of my favorite meals is romaine lettuce on the bottom, mashed potatoes on top, and I either like Mary McDougall's golden gravy on it, or I like enchilada sauce on top of it. You don't have to make it rocket science. And if you're making soups, and if you have the time, put it in your calendar. If you put things in your calendar like, hey, I'm cooking today from this time to this time, you'll do it. It's like exercise. If you don't, maybe not. Being honest, right? But like if I'm going to batch cook soups and I want stuff in the freezer, then hey, I get out my Instapot. I'm going to put split pea soup in there. Hey, I'm going to get out another pot or two and I'm going to make, maybe a vegetable Italian soup. Maybe I'm going to make my no chicken, no noodle soup. Maybe I'm going to make out of my crock pot some, red beans or whatever bean. I literally just put everything out and then I do an assembly line. So this is why earlier I was talking about, hey, at night, already peeling your garlic. Now you can always buy already peeled garlic in containers. I like touching my garlic. I love the smell of garlic. I can eat it raw. Okay. So, and then it comes through my pores. So, I just really love garlic. And I could do that. I can prep onions and put it in either pots, or I put it in a big container. So then in the morning, all I have to do is, okay, onions here, get my garlic, I get my mincer, I get it all around. And now what? I'm a very, very slow cutter. I'm highly meticulous in my knife cuts, but I can cut and peel potatoes and carrots faster than anybody. That I can do perfectly, quickly. Everything else, even my husband will laugh to this day. If he came home at 4:30 and I said, I'm making chili tonight, he'll be in hysterics and say, right, what else are you making? Because you're not making chili. We won't eat till like 9 or 10 at night. But you got to know yourself, right? But if you prep like that and you have stuff already, then do 4 soups. You could put a couple of them, all batch them, whether you use Ziploc gallon size freezer bags or you have containers that you could put in the freezer. Just throw them in there. It's fantastic. And then when you're hungry and you don't have time to cook or you don't have the energy to cook, or let's face it, sometimes you just might not want to cook. You don't have to worry about it, So if you actually like every week, every 2 weeks, plan it, hey, for a good 5 or 6 hours, and maybe you get done beforehand. Because, really once everything's cooking, you just gotta, for the things on your counter, you gotta stir it. Maybe in the crock pot, but the Instant Pot does its own thing until it's all done. Just make life easy for yourself.
We always have, Kathy makes some great like lentil chili, and we always have, she uses those like super cubes kind of things. They're like silicone little trays that have a lid that you can put in the freezer, and then they just kind of pop out, the little blocks. So we always have some blocks of chili in the freezer and things like that, so that we can pull out for like we call our emergency meals kind of thing. So it's nice.
Absolutely.
It's nice to have stuff in the freezer. It's a gift to yourself when you're having a day when you just don't have time.
Yes.
Let's see, Karina Jane, and we'll probably start wrapping up here because I know we have kept Tiffany a long time today. Karina Jane says, I never had much weight to lose. I never have weighed myself ever. I go by how I look and feel. Last year I started whole food plant-based, and it took me all year to get to the best body shape I've ever been in all my entire life. I'm getting track bottoms on that are size 6. I think that's like sweatpants that are size 6 UK, and I've not been able to get in them for over 25 years ago. I'm so proud of doing what I'm doing, the whole food plant-based lifestyle. I want to shout it from the rooftops. It's not a quick fix. It has to be a lifestyle change, and you need to be staunch and set your mind into doing it. I self-taught myself the whole entire lifestyle as I have been going along. It's an amazing lifestyle, but people need to understand the lifestyle and why you want to do this, and that helps you that makes you stick to it. Eat whole food plant-based like your life depends on it, because it really does. And I think that's a really great place to kind of wrap things up today, because we want to shout it from the rooftops too. It has changed my life significantly, for sure. I can't imagine where I would be right now if I had not done the 12-day program and had all this stuff coming at me, you know, when I was not in really good, healthy place to begin with. But I feel like I am so much stronger now, so much healthier. I can get up, I can do things. Before I did that, I was on my way to being one of those people who could barely walk to the mailbox. And now I walk 3 to 4 miles a day, and I don't blink an eyelash, and I go to Disney World, and I walk 10 miles a day and don't blink an eyelash. And I really feel like from the pandemic, during that time in the pandemic until we did the Starch solution, I was getting worse and worse and worse. So Starch solution saved me, and I do want to scream it from the rooftops too. So I get it.
Absolutely. But remember, it's not all or nothing. Anything you do better today than yesterday's a win. Anything you do better tomorrow than today, that's a win. There are people that are starting to change their lifestyle, but they're not 100% on board. Don't make it to where they don't want to change their lifestyle. We're all at a different point in life, whether you want to talk about financially, emotionally, where you are at in your eating, you want to be encouraging. Because when you've got a cheerleader saying, well, hey, like if you're a diehard vegan, and I get it, trust me, I've got some militant vegan friends. I know that thinking. But somebody who is a diehard carnivore that's curious about going starch-based, eating a few more plants because they don't really do it in the first place, you don't want to butt heads with them, because then they're not going to come over. And then if you're going in for it for animal rights and environmental rights, which I completely understand, and I am not trying to water this issue for you at all, but you don't even give the carnivore a chance to get to a point to open up and think about that possibility. It's baby steps. And you don't necessarily need to win every little battle. You eventually want to win the war.
And that's me, right? So Kathy never butted heads with me on this stuff, and she always just gently brought me along, and she would say things like, what do you have a taste for? And I would be like, well, I kind of have a taste for this. And she'd be like, oh, I can make that for us. And then she would make a complete vegan version of that, right? And so it goes a long way. And yes, it took me many years to finally go all the way. But I would say every year during that process, I got closer and closer and more curious and more curious. And then once I did the 12-day program, that was like, it was kind of like what sewed it up for me, because I couldn't deny how I felt. And that is what I have told everybody is I can't deny how much better I felt. And I encourage everybody to just, if you're curious, give it a try. See how you feel. Give it a couple, give it 10 days. See how you feel.
Yeah,
a huge
or a day.
difference.
And for
Yeah.
you that have friends that don't eat this way, just make something really good.
Yeah,
And put it in front of them and say nothing. Say nothing. Don't say, oh, this is healthy or this is vegan. Okay? The shutter will go down. Then it'll be and I've seen this before in my own life when I've brought something and said, oh, I brought it. That's all I had to say. Oh, this is all right for being healthy. I shared that story, I think, last time with brownies that I brought to the hospital. And then 6 months to the day, I am that methodical. I did put it in my calendar. I brought the exact same brownies. Made sure nobody saw me bring them in. They were gone, and I was straight up told how great they were, but it's okay because I wouldn't eat them anyway. And I was like, yeah, same ones as 6 months ago. Thank you very much for validating it. So, it just goes to show you that people have misconceptions, preconceptions about eating healthy, so just be compassionate. You'd be amazed at the conversations that might open up. Maybe not today, maybe you gotta wait a year or two,
Right.
but if you're just a little more mellow, you'd be amazed at how much healthier that they'll change in their day-to-day lives just because of that. Might not be perfect, but we're not looking for perfection.
Exactly. And you touched on something earlier that I did want to circle back around and mention to everyone that I think is very, very important component to whatever you're doing with your whole food plant-based lifestyle, and that is know thyself. The more you know yourself, the more you know the things that are tendencies, the things that you lean towards. For instance, Kathy and I always talk about we do the 90 to 95%. And the reason we made that choice was because we knew ourselves. And we knew if we tried to go 100% and not have the ability to go out to eat once or twice a week, that we would fail.
Yeah.
Because it just was not possible with our lifestyle. We are very involved in the vegan community here. There are lots of things that are usually like food-related events and things, and so we have to give ourselves that latitude, or we would have never been able to be successful with the Starch solution or any whole food plant-based program.
Absolutely.
So, got
Well,
any
that's
last
great.
words?
Rosh Hashanah's in right now for everybody. Happy New Year. Apples dipped in honey for Rosh Hashanah. You know the song, if you were brought up that tradition. Apples dipped in honey is McDougall. Not vegan technically, but, if you're vegan, then, I don't know. I guess,
But there's some vegans that still do honey. Like it's
yeah.
a very
It depends.
it's
a
very
delicate-
individual choice,
Yeah, it's
so
an individual choice, and Halloween's coming up. When we're done, I think I got my order of Halloween candy. I put it in the closet, let the kids be kids.
yeah.
It's the one night that they're going to get junk and it's okay,
Right.
Yeah, I'm definitely not giving
Let
out
kids be
toothbrush.
kids.
Let kids be kids, absolutely, But, even my own daughter, you'd be amazed sometimes. Some kids will go crazy. My daughter, She regulates herself. She'll literally, after we check all of the candy, she decides what candy she likes that she wants to keep, what candy she doesn't really care about. That goes away to whomever may want it. And even then, she doesn't eat candy every day, all day at
Right.
all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay. When if you have a kid that is eating healthier than what you did when you were their age, or they're just on fire, like how you're eating, they're eating. There's no complaints because I am told what the other kids have in their lunches. My daughter does not get that kind of junk, but she has the healthiest lunch. She lets me know that sometimes, but at the same time, she eats it, because I ask her, would you rather have junk once in a while at school and you would never get it outside of school, or would you rather have outside of school junk once in a great while? And the outside of school junk once in a great while is a better
Yeah.
option for
Yeah.
her
I was going to
than
say,
it
go
would
for
be
that
that.
one.
Right? So, hey, just be kind to each other. If Halloween candy is in your house and it's calling to you, it's calling to you. Um, See if you got a good friend that won't eat it, but they'll hold it for you until the 31st and then give it away and make sure you have none left over for yourself.
What a
And if
great
you have a
idea.
piece or two, maybe three, the small ones, not big bars. I know Costco sells big bars. No, the small ones, but don't beat yourself up. Halloween comes once a year. If you did
Yeah.
that once a year, that really isn't going to make or break your health at all.
Yeah. That's true. And we went to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party at Disney World recently, and one of the things that to do there is trick or treat around to different places, and they give you a bag and they put tons of candy in your bag and stuff. But the great thing is they do have what they call the allergy friendly bag, which is a different color. It's teal.
Yeah.
And when you go around to the different candy stations, instead of putting candy in your bag, they give you a little gold coin. And you put that little gold coin in your bag, and then at the end of the night, you go to a station that's near the exit, and you go in there with your bag with your gold coins, and you turn that in, and they give you back all of the allergy-friendly candies like Enjoy Life bars and things like that. And so it's really great. But we had quite a few of those in the house. But luckily, this year they weren't as generous with the full-size Enjoy Life candy bars as they had been in the past. So I was kind of grateful for that because I usually go overboard on those. I like the ones with the Rice Krispies thing.
Yeah, and Kelly, just to end it, I think, yeah, and if I remember, Canada, their Thanksgiving is in October and ours is in November. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
I hope you have a
definitely.
great one. I know, like with Thanksgiving, when I go to my mother-in-law's every year, I bring what my husband and I are going to eat, and my daughter. And my daughter, she'll eat more of like, oh, I want to try this or that. I really don't care. But you know what? Just enjoy each other's company. That's all you need
Exactly.
to do. You're all getting together, be grateful for that. Don't get into a food war.
Exactly. Exactly. Just enjoy time with your family. Time with your
Absolutely.
family is precious. And with that, Kimberly has asked, hi, Cheryl, did your parents evacuate from Ocala? No, my parents have not evacuated. I had a very stern discussion with them on Monday, and they said that they felt like they were going to be fine. And I was worried all night about it. And then this morning I got up and I read some of the information in the Ocala newspaper. And I'm feeling better about them staying. Their house was built in 2007 or 2008, something like that, and they actually have all the hurricane codes are built into their house. So I feel a little bit better about that. They'll probably, have some shingle damage or something like that, but they and all their neighbors are hunkering down, and they're going to all take care of each other. So I am okay with that because if it gets worse, I may insist. But as of right now, looking at things, I am okay with them making that decision because it's a decision I would have made for myself as well. And let's see, Kelly says, thank you. Yes, bringing a tofu turkey. Awesome. You're going to have a great Thanksgiving. And Lisa has popped in. Hello, Lisa. Lisa is another Canadian. So happy Thanksgiving to you too, as Lisa.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And with that, I think we are going to wrap up. And so we will have on Tiffany again very soon. And until then, everybody have a great week, and we'll see